Tantor Audio, a division of Recorded Books, presents Gutsy, Mindfulness Practices for Everyday Bravery by Leah Katz, Ph.D. Narrated by Eleanor Caudill. Introduction. I was at a women's retreat several years ago where each of the participants were asked to choose a name for themselves for the weekend. There were names like Happy Hearth, Tall Tree, Flowing River. You get the idea. We each had to choose something to put on our name tags that we thought reflected who we were in some way and that we would be called for the next 3 days. I decided not to overthink the name I chose and went with one that felt like a nice representation of myself. Quiet Fire. Quiet Fire felt like a good fit at the time, and I found myself coming back to these two words thrown together in the few years since this retreat. There is something profound and deep to me about this combination. To me, the name Quiet Fire embodies what gutsiness means. It's a quality of how we approach life that is not big, splashy, ego-based, or in your face. No, it's stronger than that, and subtler. Gutsiness and bravery are solid and growing forces, but they are often quiet and gentle, so much so that they are easily missed much of the time. They are kind and full of compassion for the self and others, and driven by self-awareness and authenticity, and discipline and courage. They are deeply personal and empowering. I think if we pause, right now even, and get quiet with ourselves, we can all identify the quiet fire that burns within us, even those of us who don't know that it is there, or deny it, or think it's silly, or are frightened by it. This quiet fire is what keeps us from complacency and keeps us instead wanting more for ourselves and our children. Even if we find ourselves in a spot where it is hard to put those yearnings into practice, our quiet fire is the soul-stirring feeling we get from wanting to live and build our most meaningful lives. It's an inner sense, hard to articulate and difficult to put into words. It's wisdom and inner strength and the desire to shake things up. In this book, we will discuss practical strategies to put those qualities of inner strength and confidence into motion while we build and reinforce the awareness of the truth that we are all strong and brave, whether we acknowledge it or not. Growing from that truth, acknowledging the fire, and letting it continue to burn slowly, steadily, and strongly are what being gutsy means. When was the last time you thought of yourself as being gutsy? If you're like so many of us, the answer is probably not that recently or that frequently. What if you could change your frame of mind to realize that not only have you been gutsy, but you are also making a series of brave and gutsy choices all the time, every day? In Western society, we use the word brave in so many different contexts, but mostly in reference to someone doing something extraordinary and beyond human capacity. Think of a Liam Neeson or a Tom Cruise character, or Jason Bourne in one of his many movies doing and surviving the unthinkable to seek justice or save someone's life. Often, we think of bravery as an act of explicit courage where someone does something truly remarkable and earth-shattering. But these are not the only appropriate usages of the word brave. Similarly, the word gutsy evokes at times doing something with chutzpah or brazenly. It suggests doing something not sanctioned by society. It can sometimes be associated with reckless, unskilled, or insensitive behavior. Gutsy in this book is defined as an offshoot of bravery. It's the muscle we use when we choose to do something against the grain, outside of society's expectations of us. It's when we sit and meditate and let ourselves really feel. We are gutsy in the moments where we find ourselves staring at two options. Option 1 is the same old choice, leading me down the same old path of feeling stuck, jealous, angry, powerless, or resentful. Option 2 is where we take a deep breath and choose another path for ourselves, one that is hard and scary to forge, but also full of hope and excitement and possibility. This path is brave, true, and reflective of our inner wisdom and knowing of ourselves. It is the one that, at the end of the day, is self-determined. A lot happens that is beyond our control in life. We often show up for other people in ways that are hard, but we do it for the sake of responsibility and compassion. Being gutsy is building the self-awareness to know where and when to create boundaries, when we choose to intentionally do things because it is our obligation, and how we choose to respond to the things that are beyond our control. Because, after all, we have one short life to live. We want the choices we make to be in line with our values and not driven by unhelpful forces like comparisons, shame, or unprocessed old pain. Being gutsy is in the big choices. The decision to make a career switch, leave a toxic relationship, or forge a different spiritual path for yourself than what was set out for you by your family. But, and listen up, because this is important, and this is the crux of this book. Being gutsy is often found in the small choices, the ones that make up the daily fabric of our lives. It's in speaking up for yourself when a boundary has been crossed, getting more authentic and vulnerable with your friends, or complimenting a stranger on their shoes. We find our guts in the everyday moments of showing up, in the small, tiny moments that don't seem like big deals, but when added up, define our lives. In this book, we define bravery as something different from the glamorization of Hollywood and society. It is something you and I are practicing daily. Though it is rare to hear the more mundane aspects of life lauded as being brave, I believe bravery is something present and woven into the day-to-day fabric of each of our lives. Each one of us, in this very moment, has more guts than we even know. This gutsiness is a sum total of life's big and small choices that we are faced with every single day. And every single day we are given many opportunities to lean into our experience and practice bravery. Bravery is found in tough parenting moments and in taking ownership of our fallacies in relationships and really apologizing. It is speaking up when it is hard to do so and when you are afraid of the consequences. It is going to a mother's group in the hopes of making a friend or asking someone new out for a coffee date. It is spending time alone if being lonely is scary for you, or attending an event despite the anxiety involved. It is seeking therapy or help from another person when your burden feels too heavy for just you. It is speaking out loud your years-old dream to your friends. It is every single time you choose to pay attention to an uncomfortable thought or sensation instead of avoiding it. I guarantee you, without even knowing you or the specifics of your life, that your life so far is an aggregate of plenitudes of brave choices and actions. Bravery is having the courage to show up and face our fears. Sometimes this means staying with something that is difficult, paying attention to the areas of difficulty, and finding a way to work through it. Sometimes this means making a difficult choice and leaving a situation that is no longer working for you. But whatever way you spin it, bravery and gutsiness mean taking an honest look at what is going on in your life and facing it. Showing up for the hard stuff, doing the hard thing, whatever that means to you. And practicing bravery is not relegated to outward actions or easily definable moments or behaviors. It is so often something more subtle, internal, and solitary. Being brave means being unafraid of the thoughts, feelings, and external and internal judgments that are a part of our everyday lives. We all have ugly and uncomfortable thoughts and feelings we'd rather not have, some more conscious than others. These mental events and psychological states can certainly be painful. However, when we don't talk about them and pretend they don't exist, we run into suffering. We lead with bravery when we take an honest look at what is going on inside. Sometimes there is an actionable behavior that flows from that awareness, but there isn't always a way of measuring bravery. In my clinical practice and personal life, I have seen too many people of all ages tell themselves a story of how unbrave they are. Feeling unbrave is exactly as it sounds, not assessing and allowing your bravery to shine through, and believing your mind's story that you don't have what it takes to do what it is that your innermost wisdom and yearnings would have you do. At the same time, in my clinical practice, I have been struck over and over again by the bravery my clients have displayed in our work together. Young, middle-aged, or older clients, being brave is independent of age. I am not trying to minimize the tremendous work it often takes to be brave. Being brave, being gutsy, can be difficult, but it is not insurmountable. Often, learning to be brave can be aided through supports we put into place, therapy, close friends, reflective exercises, and so on. Let's be brave. Let's live our fullest, truest lives. Humans have a fathomless capacity to be brave. If we let ourselves access that innate bravery, we can open the doors to a life that is truer and fuller. Being brave can lead to greater depths of spirituality, confidence, and well-being. Practicing mindfulness, the exercise of kindly paying attention to the present moment over and over again, one moment at a time, can be one conduit to bravery. Studies have shown the dual relationship between bravery and mindfulness. It takes guts to practice mindfulness, to face the hard stuff with a gentle awareness, and in turn, in practicing mindfulness, we increase our opportunity to be gutsy. I have found this to be true in my own journey with practicing mindful meditation. Learning to slow down and show up to what my mind was producing was the biggest catalyst in helping me access my own bravery. I began seriously meditating over 7 years ago. Although I had espoused meditation for a long time before then, I hadn't had very much experience with my own formal practice. It was almost happenstance how I ended up on my first meditation retreat. More on that later. And something I am forever grateful for. Since then, I have gone on other retreats and maintained my own formal and informal practice. I find the practice of meditating nurturing, a way of checking in with myself and carving out stillness in my increasingly busy life. It often feels like getting a massage for my soul. Don't get me wrong, though. It is not always a pleasant experience. Sometimes it can feel quite wily. The powerful lessons I have learned through my own practice of mindfulness are ones I try to weave into the clinical work I do with teenagers and adults, hoping to impart the power of creating a gentle awareness of our mind's storytelling and the brave choices we can then make. I aim to communicate that we are not wedded to anything our mind produces. Similarly, as mentioned earlier, therapy can be an important conduit to address deeply held beliefs, stories, and fears that hold us back from living a profoundly rewarding life. We don't have to be in crisis to go for therapy. It can provide support in so many different ways, including insight and skill building. I am constantly awed and inspired by the privilege of getting down and dirty, so to speak, with my clients and watching them show up for themselves and create change. This showing up is reflected in coming to a therapy session, which can be very difficult, as some of you may know, and flowers when the client chooses to talk about and face life's most uncomfortable sensations and realities. The bravery I witness continues as the people I work with make active, challenging choices to shift their relationship to whatever is causing them pain. I am inspired daily working with my clients, watching them learn and grow and grapple with the stuff most of us are compelled to avoid. Mindfulness and my experience with my own therapy have put me on a path where I am committed to working through old trauma, developing a strong relationship with the person I am today, and watching with loving curiosity as I evolve, and making brave, wise choices to move forward. Did you know that a study out of Germany found that people in therapy show better outcomes when their therapist has trained in Zen meditation? Though this evidence is not conclusive by any means, it points to the power of acceptance. Working with a therapist who is trained in the art of being present in a non-judgmental way helps the client heal. In this book, we'll delve into the more intimate personal aspect of what is holding us back from living an awakened life, because we cannot reach our dreams, or even know what they are, if we don't first attend to sources of pain within us. We all carry pain. It is a part of life. It is an integral part of our story. How we choose to approach our unique pain can define our ability to pursue and actualize our dreams. This book contains ideas that I hope will help you navigate the difficult aspects of life, which we all share to some degree. My hope for you, and me, and all of us, is that we access enough insight, guts, and wisdom to meet the brave, wise self that is already inside. We will talk about destructive narratives that may be holding us back, and move into building up a healthier narrative and behavioral repertoire that ultimately will open the door for brave, wise choices that can lead to a more meaningful and spiritual existence. We will build ourselves from the ground up, so to speak. This book is from my heart to yours. It is comforting and joyful for me to imagine you in your own little corner of this world, creating space in your oh-so-busy life to listen to this. It is inspiring to think of you carving out time for yourself and going forth into your life feeling more empowered to live your life to its fullest. For you moms who wake up early in the mornings and put on your cozy robe to drink your cup of coffee, who sneak away for a few minutes of the day to practice gratitude or meditation or whatever you hold in your personal space. For you beautiful people who dream of setting some precious time aside just for you, but are having a hard time making it happen because you are just so tired, and who, when it comes down to it, need to stay in bed a little longer because it was a rough night with the kids. For you who struggle with doubt and insecurity, but who have also had great achievements and successes that you don't attend to or celebrate enough. For you who may have lost track of your own inner worthiness and greatness, feeling like it is inaccessible even though it is merely covered up with other stuff. For you who walk my walk and understand this language of balancing parenthood and life's responsibilities with personal growth and accomplishment. This book is for you. Author's note. Mindfulness has been defined by Jon Kabat-Zinn as paying attention in a particular way, on purpose, in the present moment, and non-judgmentally. The form of meditation that I practice is centered on these principles, and many of the ideas found in this book originated from insights I have learned through my own practice of meditation. The concept of mindfulness has become quite popular these last several years, and people are using the word mindfulness to imply many different things. The mindfulness I am referring to is that which is cultivated through deliberately paying attention to our experience of any given moment, through our breathing, our body, or a particular sensation, in a kind and non-judgmental way. The practice of mindfulness is scientifically linked to many positive outcomes, such as learning to live with uncertainty, making fewer mistakes, being brave, and experiencing longevity, among many other things. These correlations may be enough in and of themselves to get you curious about what this concept of mindfulness is really all about. I want to emphasize that while it is enticing to practice mindfulness with the goal of achieving these outcomes, practicing mindfulness in an outcome-driven way is self-defeating, really. Rather, explore a mindfulness practice with the hope of living a fuller, richer, and braver life, each precious moment to moment. That said, meditating may not necessarily be for you, and that is okay. Some people have a difficult time with meditation and choose not to pursue a practice, and there is no judgment in that. You don't need a meditation practice to benefit or appreciate this book, which is influenced by lessons learned from mindfulness as well as my training as a psychologist and my own experiences. 2 chapters in this book are devoted to learning to live bravely with our bodies, whether we are in a pain-free or a painful state. I want to emphasize here that I am not a medical doctor, and the words in these chapters are not in any way meant to mimic medical advice. My words here are anecdotal in nature only, and stem from my experiences with my own body and my own pain, and how I have used mindfulness to meet myself with where I am physically at. Always, always follow your doctor's recommendations for caring for your body. Don't do anything suggested in this book that is not right for you. These chapters are meant to get us thinking about and noticing the relationship we each have with our own unique body. My hope is that we can all celebrate the miracle of what it means to have a body and learn to be kinder to the one we were given. Several anecdotes about my upbringing are scattered throughout the book. I am calling on the notion of dual realities when it comes to those stories. I am telling these stories through my lens with the full recognition that other participants in the events discussed will have their own perspectives and versions of what happened. It feels important for me to say from the beginning that while I discuss some harder elements of my childhood, I know my parents loved me and did the best they could with what they had, and I have great and deep love for them too. This book is and isn't about my own unique story. While it contains elements of my own history, I'm only telling my story because I believe there is such a universalness to all of our stories. When we start sharing, we realize how much our stories overlap with each other. Furthermore, in discussing my experiences with formalized religion, I feel obligated to emphasize that I am writing strictly from my perspective growing up in a little corner of the Orthodox Jewish world. As it is in all religions, there are many variances in religious observance among Orthodox Jews. I know many people who grew up Orthodox or lived in the Orthodox world for a period of time who received different messages and experiences than I did. One of my dear friends who spent many years studying in an Orthodox Jewish all-female seminary in Israel tells me of vastly different experiences where she felt empowered as a woman to develop a unique and thoughtful relationship to her Judaism. She describes this time in her life as one of intense Torah, Jewish Bible study, joy, and independence. Please do not take my story as a blanket description of what it looks like to be Orthodox and Jewish. While I discuss some elements that were harder for me in living a strictly observant life, I don't discuss as much the beauty found within this tight-knit community. There is a huge emphasis on community, support, and being there for others. Chesed, acts of kindness, are extraordinarily emphasized and a big part of this way of life. Meal trains for those who are sick or just had a baby are the norm, as are ongoing prayer groups for those who need it and visits to the sick. There is a strong sense of community and a privilege in honoring the blueprint of sages and rabbis and a lineage that is thousands of years old. I don't talk as much about these beautiful elements of this lifestyle, but I do want to mention here, before we get going, that there are profound benefits for those who are in this community that act as a draw for many people who choose to return to their roots, so to speak, and adopt a more observant lifestyle. There are therapeutic stories scattered throughout this book. Please know any identifying information has either been omitted or changed in order to maintain the anonymity of the people mentioned. So if you think you recognize someone in this book based on descriptive information, you are wrong. It is not them. Lastly, if you are experiencing mental health difficulties that are interfering with your life, it may be a wise choice to pursue therapy to enable your growth and healing. In the last chapter of this book, I touch on healing from a difficult upbringing. While I am talking about difficulties, this is not meant to replace therapy in any way. I am not addressing people who have severe trauma or abuse in their histories. If you have a history of trauma or abuse, or are struggling with your mental health, seeking therapy may be a good idea. There are many well-qualified and trained professionals to help with creating forward movement for you, as well as empowering and helping you to process your history. I recommend seeking your own individual support if that feels right for you. This book is for educational, informational, and anecdotal purposes only, and not meant to replace therapy in any way or imply a therapeutic relationship. Sending you so much love. Happy listening. I hope you enjoy. Part 1. How long have you been holding on to the idea of making some change in your life, in one way or another, and stayed stuck? The thoughts remain background noise, soft chatter, and abstract ideas, or maybe not even that abstract, not yet realities. This experience of so badly wanting to do something, start something, leave something, or someone, but not making it happen are shared by so many. Many of us either have been there before or are there now, feeling like we want more for our life or something different, but having a hard time getting there. I know I felt it and feel it in some ways currently. That's what propelled me to write a book about this topic, the resonance of my own life's experiences, together with witnessing clients feel these very feelings, illuminate to me how common these feelings are. Feeling stuck is difficult and can lead to feelings of hopelessness, can be de-energizing and exhausting, and can just suck much joy out of life. On the flip side, there's nothing quite like the feeling of getting unstuck. Taking some tiny action that helps you remember that indeed rarely are we objectively and actually stuck. Sometimes it's taking the small action, creating some movement that helps us realize we are the ones standing in our own way. And I have felt that exhilarated feeling myself in many ways, watching the illusion of stuckness come crashing down by the very hands that put that notion there in the first place. Mine. The product of thoughts produced by my lovely mind. We must emphasize feeling stuck is a feeling like all other feelings, and not a reality. Very rarely, if ever, are we actually physically stuck. While there is a lot we can't control in our external environment, we have all the control and power in how we choose to respond, as well as how we structure and set up our lives. Ironically, oftentimes we can find much of our control with an embracing of how out of control we really are. Learning to live with uncertainty is a powerful force for change, but more on that later. It is empowering and powerful learning to step into our agency and be brave to do something different, allowing ourselves to move away from stuckness. I have celebrated these victories in my own life and with clients, and it is one reason I love my job as a psychologist so much. I feel deeply grateful to be doing work infused with so much meaning. And I can't think of much more meaning than watching someone learning new tools, accessing their own bravery, and making change that leads to a more fulfilling and authentic life. How many of you have had thoughts of making change in your life for some time now and struggled to either initiate change or sustain it? I know I have. I know waking up early and starting my day with a workout transforms my day, and I've successfully done this for periods of time, but then let it fall away. Or I've had some good ideas lingering in my mind for some time and let them sit there without putting them into practice. Why do we do this? Have great ideas, know what we want to do, more or less, and then stay there, stuck in our thoughts, allowing our creative ideas to remain just that, ideas. As I like to say in therapy, there's often going to be some function in the dysfunction. There is a reason we hold on to unhelpful habits. They serve some purpose. Sometimes they are cozy and familiar, keeping us safely and squarely in our comfort zones. Sometimes the function is protecting ourselves from experiencing certain feelings that we have deemed too big or scary, like disappointment, rejection, fear, or embarrassment. Whatever the reason is, many of us find ourselves at one point or another knowing that we want to make changes, even knowing what we need to do, and then not doing anything to make it happen. In part 1 of this book, we take the necessary first step to making lasting change in our life, addressing what has been holding us back all this time, as well as building up our capacity for self-love and compassion. We can't fully do this work without building on our self-love. It's actually quite fascinating how we have all kinds of thoughts that hold us back that we may or may not be aware of. When we pause and gently notice what those thoughts are, we hold the key to making change. Because now that we have the awareness of the thoughts our mind is producing that are holding us back, we can do something about those tricky little thoughts. In the following chapters, we'll talk about how we can access greater self-awareness so we can better know and understand the parts of us that are holding on tightly to the familiar and keeping things stagnant so that we can make the changes we are dreaming of and tap into a more rewarding and fulfilling life. 1. Oh, those tricky excuses and what's beneath them. Oh, hello there, excuse. Nice to see you. Are you coming along for the ride? I thought for a very long time, too long, that I needed a meditation cushion in my office before I would be able to sit in there and start my writing. This is not a joke, and it took me a long time to order the perfect meditation cushion. Writing this down on paper, it seems so silly. Seriously, what does a meditation cushion even have to do with writing a book? But in my mind, at the time, it made perfect sense. I needed my Zen corner set up so that I could meditate before writing. Without it, my writing would clearly suffer. And while I'm at it, it would be really nice to have another west-facing window in here, because I love the west view from our house, and when I sit here at my desk only having the one south-facing window, I just feel less inspired. But yes, a meditation cushion and a west-facing window, those are what I need to write this book. These excuses manifest in me feeling like I need to set up my physical environment just so before I begin to write. But they also take up space with more internal excuses. I'm not in the right frame of mind to write, or I didn't sleep well last night, so clearly my writing will suffer today. I should just take a day off, and so on. Can you relate to this? Making excuses for yourself that may seem perfectly legitimate from the outside? My meditation cushion might seem like a silly example, but often the excuses that stymie our everyday bravery seem really reasonable. That's why I call them tricky little suckers. Tricky is one of my favorite words. I think tricky describes the majority of excuses we make for ourselves. They are sneaky little things that make us believe that they hold some veracity, when in fact, they are not. They are just thoughts. And one of my favorite mantras for working with difficult thinking is, Just because we think, it doesn't mean it's true. Here were some of my tricky little suckers. I'm not in the right mindset to write today. I didn't get enough sleep last night. Do you see how they really are so tricky? It's because they seem highly believable, reasonable even, and sometimes they serve as legitimate reasons.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?